The fact is that at any time, the authorities can arrest anyone, and then when it is challenged, when the hearing comes up for the challenge, they release, and there is no accountability. That is the effect of this ruling. So this will continue, could continue. We were hoping this highest court would intervene to ensure that at least there will be, that the court is obliged to look into the legality of the detention. But the court, they say they're going to give their written grounds, and we look forward to their written grounds to see whether there is any scope to ensure that the police are not free to get away with detaining people and then not having it, and then when people come to courts for a remedy, being denied this remedy because, as in this case, at 7:36 of the night before they release, they inform us that the person is released. So what happens then, in the interim? That's the first point. The second point is they were directed to file affidavit in reply. And the important thing is, in any case where somebody is detained, you must respond to say and refute the allegations that are made as to the illegality of the detention. In this case, the respondent, on behalf of the police, did not respond. The court condoned it. The High Court condoned it and said that, did not say anything about the fact that its own order was not obeyed. We were hoping that this would be sufficient for the federal court to at least put some strictures on the fact that the authorities had not responded on an important right where someone is detained and there's a challenge to the legality. But this court, in its wisdom, has decided not to. But like I said, they might elaborate this in their grounds, which they have said they will give written grounds. So maybe they will have responses to some of the disquiet that is felt by the citizenry, with regard to the application of SOSMA. So we look forward to their decisions, and I'm sure we can then reflect on the wisdom of the contained in the decision and look at it carefully.
I think it's a question of accountability. Actually, that's also that's what I'm trying to say, that you cannot allow the authorities to get away with arresting someone without giving any reasons whatsoever, and without justifying it, and then releasing just before the habeas corpus, where they don't file an affidavit, and are therefore are not held accountable. But as Gudial has said, we hope the judgment will address some of these points. So we will wait to see what their written judgment says.
Okay.
Quite frankly, after the extension of SOSMA for another 5 years, nobody thinks that they need to be accountable for any of these actions. I'm not talking about this case now.
But just again, also just on
yeah,
that
sure.
case, you see, and also this is what this case also raised. We said that's a very important issue, regardless of whether Maria Chin was released or not. The question of the scope of SOSMA, does it apply to people in the situation of Maria? NGOs who are carrying out what they perceive to be legal activities, consistent with their own mandate. So we were hoping that at least this question should be addressed as to the scope of SOSMA. And this is very relevant because, as the Minister revealed yesterday, there are 997 cases, SOSMA-related cases. And before that, the previous Chief Justice also said there were some 547 cases. So in the last 2 years, the cases have doubled. So the construction of SOSMA, which is very controversial, right, it would have been very useful if the court had looked at the scope to see when it should apply, when it should not apply. It is very critical to democracy based on rule of law, this guidance by the court, which we urged the court to provide, the court decided in its own wisdom not to do so. So that is the other aspect that is important.
Because SOSMA covers offences like this, undermining of parliamentary democracy, very vague, very, very vague. You see, in my view, no accountability and transparency on one MDB undermines parliamentary democracy. But that's not their view. They think people asking for free and fair elections undermine. You see, that's the thing. So, I know this is a separate, not to do.
Thanks, sir.
But I think that most important is that it opens up for abuse. Now is that the police doesn't need to account nor give reason for arrest. So whether you are fighting for civil liberties or the terrorists, there's no boundaries there. And what we as public want to know is that there has to be separation for those who are fighting for justice and democracy and all that. Shouldn't be put under SOSMA. SOSMA intention, when it first came out, was actually to curb terrorism. Then use it for that particular purpose, not against social activists. That's what our contention is about. And we are not saying that don't have any laws against terrorism. Of course, we are concerned about national security, but when it's used to actually curb dissent, curb critical voices in society in a quest to actually build democracy, then it's wrong to use SOSMA.